Deputy Senate President. Thank you, Senate President. Thank you, Deputy Senate President and principal senators here, as well as the distinguished senators here. Thank you for welcoming me into this hallowed chamber. I'm here as a ministerial nominee representing Imo State, who's been nominated by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I would like to use some time to introduce myself properly to you. But before I proceed, I would like to first give thanks to Almighty God for bringing me thus far. I would also like to thank my community for their support for training me, and I would like to thank all those who have played a role in mentoring me so far. So I want to thank my governor, Senator Hope Uzodimma. I want to thank Jimovia, chairman of Zenith Bank, and the entire management of Zenith Bank for their mentoring and their tutelage so far. My name is Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite. I would like to repeat my name because I know I've heard so many versions of my name. It's Doris, we spelled with one R, Nkiruka, Uzoka, with a hyphen, Anite. I come from Osuobodo, Uguta local government area of Imo State. I had my early childhood in Osuobodo, Imo State. And then we left to Lagos State where I completed my primary school. I also had my secondary education in Lagos State and finally went to the University of Benin where I obtained my Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. I'm a medical doctor. Shortly afterwards, after graduation, I served as a houseman in a co-hospital, Lagos State. Then I also did my youth service in Lagos State under redeployment from Ebonyi State. I served in Barowa Primary Health Center in Lagos State, Surulere local government. Afterwards, I did a short medical service at Providence Hospital before pivoting my career into banking. I started and ended my banking career in Zenith Bank. My first appointment in Zenith Bank was to set up the Zenith Philanthropy and External Relations Department. I was an assistant banking officer. The responsibilities I held then as an assistant banking officer who was setting up the Zenith Philanthropy Department was to establish, my mic is on, but, okay. Can you hear me now? It's better? Thank you. I set up the Zenith Philanthropy and External Relations Department as an assistant banking officer. My responsibility was to establish the corporate social responsibility of the bank and to set a course for the bank's philanthropic activities and its corporate social responsibility. Some of those things that we did still stand to record, one of them being the construction or reconstruction of the Ajose Adeogun street, which still stands as one of the best streets and still being used till tomorrow as for the youth parade, Christmas youth parade, as well as the Christmas lighting, and it still stands as an icon till today. Due to my performance in my various responsibilities, I got triple promotions, double promotions. Eventually, I headed the Human Resources Department and the Training Department of Zenith Bank, actually 8 years after I joined the bank. And that was actually a phenomenal success or record. As head of Human Resources, I was responsible for translating the strategic objectives of the bank into execution. And then I was asked to ensure that we quadrupled the profitability of the bank. And then I identified that human resources was the best or the most valuable asset any company could have, or any nation. So using my recruitment skills, because I first headed the recruitment department, we identified and identified very qualified personnel, hired them, trained them, equipped them with the skills they needed, and deployed them to areas where their skills met their competencies. And we can see the growth translate into the profitability of Zenith Bank today. Under my watch, we grew Zenith Bank from 80 branches to 400 branches. And we also quadrupled the performance of the bank in its balance sheet size. Afterwards, I was redeployed to Treasury Department. I started my career in Treasury Department as a bond trader, head of bonds trading. Then I moved on to currency trading. Then afterwards, I became the head trader for the bank. And I set up the Zenith Sales Department, as well as the Financial Institutions Department. Shortly afterwards, I was promoted to become the group head of Treasury. As a group head of Treasury, I was responsible for the balance sheet management of the bank. I was responsible for balance sheet management of the bank across all its subsidiaries, and this also included its foreign currency liability and assets and liability. I also was responsible for the revenue growth of the bank, and under me, we recorded year-on-year growth of over 36%. I was also the chief investment officer of the bank. And most of the investment, I mean, you can see some of the activities or my contribution to the growth of the bank. I work with a team of highly qualified individuals, some of whom also benefited from my own direct tutelage and mentorship. While working as a general manager and the group head of Treasury of Zenith Bank, I was identified and spotted by my current governor, who actually reached out to the bank to request for my redeployment to Imo State to work as his commissioner for finance. Following his request, I was redeployed, or rather, I was allowed to go to serve a service I consider as one of the most important service of my own lifetime, the service to humanity. And when I got to Imo State then was just starting to experience the height of insecurity. It was a very difficult environment, but I sat down with my governor and we determined its economic development plan. And then we sat down, and Imo State, being a transit state, is actually in the center of the southeastern bloc. And we have a lot of traffic going through that state to other states. And so it was very central to the economic activities and the commercial activities of that region. So we identified that construction of road was one of the most important things that we needed to do. And I can tell you, then with very sparse resources, we decided to, we went on to construct to today over 37 roads. And then apart from that, as a coordinating commissioner for the state as well, I undertook a lot of responsibilities, including strategic financial management, where I prioritized economic development, certain activities that was going to turn around the economy of the state. Infrastructural growth and development. I focused on industry and trade. A lot of those things are my accomplishments are in my CV. I'm already getting signals to round up. At this point, I would like to just talk about briefly what I do currently. Though I still am the Commissioner of Finance for Imo State, I've worked in several committees in this present government, starting with the Policy Advisory Council, where we've developed and formulated a roadmap for the current administration, to the Presidential Strategy Team, where we came up with strategies to mitigate or to cushion the effect of the first subsidy removal, to the Presidential Food Security Council, where I currently work as the secretary, developing the food security strategies for the country, as well as the Presidential Economic Team, where we're working currently to solve the FX crisis in the country. That's in summary what I have done. Thank you, distinguished senators.
Thank you. Let me now, Senator Azuko Ekpeyon.
Senator representing Cross River South. Dr. Doris is a person that is known to me. She served as Commissioner of Finance for Imo State while I was her counterpart for Cross River State for several years. Beyond that, we served on the Presidential Campaign Council for our party and on the Policy Advisory Council after our president-elect was declared. She's someone who has a lot of resources, deeply intelligent, and extremely hardworking. I know her capacity, and I implore you that she is here to be screened, here to answer your questions, and I'd like to start by asking her a question myself. Dr. Doris, based on your CV, based on the work that I am privy to, that you have been doing on the Policy Advisory Council, I see that if you are cleared here, you may be ending up, or your trajectory is towards trade and investment. I would like to ask questions in that area. Today, one of the issues bedeviling the micro, small, medium enterprise in this country is the lack of adequately priced capital in the sector for them to grow. I'd like to ask, a lack of adequately priced capital. I'd like to ask what your intentions are if you were in such a ministry as trade and investment to stimulate the growth of that sector. Also, there are issues of multiplicity of agencies intervening in that sector. How do you intend to eliminate that duplication and streamline the interventions from agencies such as Smeden, Bank of Industry, Nexim, NEPC, etc.? Thank you very much.
Imo North, from Imo State. Mr. President, the person standing before us, Commissioner for Finance and Coordinating Economy in Imo State, supervising 12 ministries. The person standing before us, coordinating commissioner, is enough. So, you can see quite an intellectual. You can see a medical doctor who vied into banking industry. In a short while, she became a general manager and a group treasurer of such a big bank like Zenith Bank. So dedicated that I know that we would like to ask her some questions because she is somebody who is always ready to discharge. But I don't think that we'll even belabor ourselves so much because she is use point of order, because she is somebody without any doubt. We can believe that with her, whether we put her in the Ministry of Finance, she will do well. Whether you put her in the Ministry of Health, she will be wonderful. Whether you put her in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, she will be excellent. I think she's an exceptional nominee, and she will be exceptional minister. In fact, she will be an uncommon minister. So I would suggest that those who are itching to ask questions, just be brief so that she can just... Those who must ask questions, be brief. Let her bow and take a leave. I'm pleading to all of you, my friend. I'm pleading to all of you. You know, when you have the best, you don't need to belabor the best. She's excellent. I thank you all for listening, And maybe allow my colleague from Imo State, Ostis Naso, to add his verse. And I have another brother there, Onyewuchi. But the truth is that we don't need to bother her with questions. She's wonderful.
Has taken over the job of the presiding officer. After speaking, you also nominated the next person to speak. So I don't intend to disobey you. Therefore, I concur. The distinguished Senator Izunaso, you have been nominated to speak.
My distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Osita Izunaso from Imo West. Mr. Chair, the nominee before us, Dr. Mrs. Doris Uzoka Anietem, is one of our best and brightest in the banking and finance sector, spanning over 2 decades. Mr. President, this multi-talented, cross-functional, managerial, with heavy managerial ability, has a lot of experience in both IT, treasury, human resource management, etc., etc. Mr. President, we can attest to the fact that since she came to Imo State as the Commissioner for Finance and Coordinating Economy, the Imo State IGR have moved from point A to point B, and Imo Lions are very happy with that. Mr. President, I do not think that we are going to over-label her this afternoon with plenty of questions, because we all know that she's very capable. If you look at her resume, she's extremely capable. And I can look at the time, it's past 5. And yesterday, we had a tradition of allowing the last woman that came yesterday to take a leave. And today, Mr. President, sitting as chair, I will request my distinguished colleagues that we allow her to take a leave of the Senate. Having worked very hard for this country, having worked very hard in the banking sector, I believe that any ministry she finds herself, she will do a thorough and a very good job. I rest my case, Mr. President.
Senatorial District. Mr. President, let me first of all congratulate the nominee before us, Dr. Doris Uzoka, and to say she is a nominee in whom we are well pleased. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the nominee before us is an astute professional with rich pedigree and impressive resume. This is somebody that started her career as a medical practitioner and moved from there to the banking sector, where she excelled and got to the zenith of her career at the Zenith Bank. The lady before us, in pursuit of her passion, has also come to serve as Commissioner for Finance and Coordinating Economy in my home state of Imo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I do not have any doubt. I do not have any doubt, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that the nominee before us will be an asset to this administration. I have no doubt whatsoever, Mr. President, that this nominee will add value. I therefore want my colleagues, and I urge you to give her expeditious confirmation to take up her responsibility in the Federal Executive Council. I so submit, Mr. President.
And to my colleagues, I want to say it is clear from her CV that we're looking at a very special woman, a woman who is well accomplished, a decision of excellence by His Excellency, the President of Nigeria, for picking people of her caliber who can make a difference to Nigeria. And so I'm trying to tell my colleagues also that there's no need to labor her. I'm sure that if we let her, she will be answering questions for the next 2 hours. But I know that as us senators, we do not want to be here for the next 2 hours. Since it is quite unnecessary, I think we should also let her take a bow and go, as we have done to all the other men and women of caliber that we have seen here in the last couple of days. Thank you.
Others, just like Senator Kingibe just pointed out, the lady standing before us, Dr. Anete, is from her CV, is an accomplished person, both in terms of intellectual acquisition and performance, practical, both in banks, medicine, and other functions that she has been asked to perform. So for me, I want to join others to say that we allow her greet us and go, so that we can look at other matters. She has done her matter by herself, from her performance and her past achievements. Thank you, Mr. President.
I am Dr. Titus Zam. I represent the good people of Benue Northwest Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have reason to ask a little question. From the nominee's resume, she is trained as a medical doctor. And people who have chosen medicine from experience are people that have passion for medical care. How come that this nominee has abandoned the medical profession to the banking sector? Thank you.
This is the last question you are going to ask. This is the last question you ask.
Distinguished colleagues, that question is very real, that having spent over 6 years studying medicine, what made her to abandon medicine, to go into, I'm sure she will be very happy to answer the question. Distinguished Senator Idiot, you have anything to ask? Because we have to be gender sensitive.
Adebule, I represent the good people of Lagos West. Yes, the consensus is that you should take a leave of the Senate. But then, looking at your CV, and knowing fully well within me that you have the capacity and the capability and the competence to answer any question whatsoever in your area of study and your profession. I'm going to throw this question to you, knowing fully well you will do justice to it. Peradventure, you are confirmed and you are assigned the Ministry of Trade and Investment. I would like to know, and I'd like you to take note of the fact that on the ease of doing business scale in Nigeria between 2011 to 2019, Nigeria is 131 of the 100 countries that signed up today to the ranking. May I ask you, if you have the opportunity what strategy are you going to adopt to improve, to make Nigeria to improve on the ease of doing business ranking in the world? In Africa, we're 20, and I believe we can do better. Ghana is first in the ranking in the scale, but I think and I believe we can do better if we have somebody that is dedicated and ready to improve on what we have presently. Thank you.
Since Senator Plan, is there any question different from what has been asked?
Something, sir. I have something, sir. Can I? Is it granted? I am Senator Diket Plan, Senator representing Plateau Central Senatorial District. I join my colleagues to congratulate our nominee, and I also join them in appreciating her performances. My little question to her is, although people are saying, suppose you end up with trade and investment, I want to ask that even if you ended up there, for the fact that your background is also in medicine, I hope you will avail yourself to advise any other person handling any ministry, despite the fact that you are specified to a particular ministry, because I see content in you. Secondly, sometimes back, the Primary Healthcare Development Center or so agency awarded 774 primary healthcare centers in all the 774 local government councils. All the projects, particularly the one in my place, there's a one in Pushit, there's a one in Kadung, all have reached a stage but abandoned. And I think it has economic implication. I pray that as a member, when you are cleared as a member of the cabinet, the relevant ministry should be advised to ensure that these primary health care centers are brought to completion. I hope you'll advise.
But I don't think my CV is complete. My own paper, maybe because some pages are missing. I haven't seen anything about her family life. I didn't see anything about. I haven't seen anything about her family life. The name of her father, the mother, and the community. I've seen that she's from Oguta, but Oguta is maybe a local government. I'd like you to break it down so I know your family life and the name of your husband, and how many children and the rest of them, please. Yes. So go ahead.
Thank you, distinguished senators. Let me start by the last question, or with the last question. Okay, permit me to start with the question.
We had agreed before we started, and we are keeping to it.
Okay, so I was born to Mr. and Mrs. Uzoka. My grandfather's name is Ogene. Ogene means a title in Uguta. Ogene John Nnana Uzoka. And my mom is Mrs. Victoria Uzoka and Osobodo in Uguta, Uguta 2, Osobodo Uguta 2 in Uguta local government area. I have a lot of children actually, and a lot of them are both biological and non-biological. And I'm responsible for a whole community of people, both children, men and women. And I still feel very honored and happy to be of service to the community. I don't know if you want any other about my biography. Okay. Okay, so let me start with why I left medicine or why I switched from medicine. The question about why I switched from medicine is also related to my biography. Actually, for me, while I was a medical doctor, I did a lot of things. I did surgery, which requires a lot of precision and clarity about what you were doing, diagnosing diseases, profiling solutions, and also profiling, Okay, the important ones. The remaining, okay, I think I will answer the primary health care one. I also agree with the distinguished senator that a lot of those projects have been abandoned. For example, in Imo State, we had to carry out the renovation of 305 primary health centers in the 305 wards. I was instrumental to that. I actually was the chairman that drove that renovation. And I agree with you. If I have the opportunity to contribute to the primary healthcare development agency, I would do that. Then the remaining two questions were around trade and investment. Thank you, distinguished colleagues, for suggesting a ministry. To date, I don't really know where I'm going, but permit me to say that if I had the opportunity to be in trade and investment, the first question referred to pricing of factors of production, and the second question was about making it easy for businesses to operate in the country. I agree that the country currently has this difficulty, or difficult business terrain. I saw that in banking, I saw that while I was a commissioner. A lot of these factors are actually within the responsibility of us here, the state government and the federal government. It's not just the responsibility of the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment. I know that the Office of the Vice President is driving the ease of doing business, is driving the ease of doing business agenda, a project that's being sponsored by the World Bank. And this is to make trading or businesses, to facilitate easy business environment for businesses. There's a whole lot that can be done in easing businesses, and I think that will just dovetail into why the factors of production are very expensive. One, you look at land. If we improve the land reform of each state, because the businesses are within the states, the economy of this country is within the states, and that's the responsibility of the state governors. There should be a deliberate attempt to improve land reform, and most especially automate the process of owning land, owning property, landed properties, and using it for businesses. Currently, we know that if you buy land today and you're waiting for your CFO, it takes a long time. That has to be done. Secondly, the tax reform has to be done. I mean, a lot of governments should also, while the federal government is going on the tax reform and harmonizing taxes or multiplicity of taxes, I think the state governments also need to replicate the same. Then you come to provision of infrastructure, which is largely a responsibility of both the federal and the state government. While the state government is responsible for a lot of the infrastructure, the states need to also be deliberate about providing the right infrastructure to support their MSMEs within those states. Then people, we have to have deliberate effort, make a deliberate effort to have skilled people, skilled manpower in the right jobs, including improving our quality of education from primary to secondary to tertiary education, technical education. Okay, I'll round up very soon. To financing. Financing is actually the last thing. When you get your business processes right, financing is the last thing. And I think there are lots of intervention or financing intervention that can be provided to MSMEs to improve or to lessen the cost of doing business for them. When all of these are done, Okay, so I believe that if we're able to get it right, we will see. Okay, thank you, distinguished senators. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, the nominee, you will agree with me, has vast experience in various areas. In the area of medicine, in the area of financing, in the area of human capital development, in the area of management, or in fact governance. Senator Patrick Ndubueze had pointed out that she was not only a commissioner in Imo State, that she was also supervising 12 other ministries, which makes it very clear that she is very vast she's very experienced in governance. So we must commend the president for the choices that have appeared here today, because they are not only well educated, they are also well experienced in various fields. I believe that those who suggested trade and investment for you, maybe are just thinking in their minds that they would like to see you there to promote trade and investment in Nigeria. But it is the work and the job of the president to allocate portfolios to his ministers. So don't go home thinking that you are going to trade and investment. Just believe that Mr. President will give you where he best thinks that you will contribute your quota most, for the benefit of Nigerians. Is it the view of the Senate that this nominee should now take leave of the Senate? Those who are in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may now take leave of the Senate.
Back to plenary so that the chair can report progress. I so move.